I've been asked a handful of times now if I would talk about some of my guitars. And so I will. Starting with the first guitar I bought, no, the second guitar I bought for myself. When I was in high school, I went to a party and I brought my banjo. Probably not the best move, but not completely out of line because somebody at the party put on Alice's Restaurant. And the next week I went to the Music Emporium, which at the time was in Porter Square in Cambridge. And I played acoustic guitars for an hour and a half and picked out this one. This is a 1981, maybe, Yamaha FG 365S. I got it for a few reasons. A year or so before, my parents had wanted to get my sister a guitar as a gift. And so I went down and played a bunch of stuff and ended up getting a Yamaha FG 335. When I went back to buy my own guitar, they did what they should do in a guitar store to say, well, how much money are you working with? And when I had played a handful of Yamahas and some Washburns and a couple other things, they said, well, now, if you could spend just a little bit more, this is the first guitar in the Yamaha line that has a solid top, and it will age better than the other ones you played, which all have plywood tops. So I decided that was a really good thing to do. And also it had cool diamond fretboard markers instead of circles, which I also thought was kind of awesome. And I liked sort of the figuring of the wood too. I thought that was pretty excellent. So, I mean, I didn't know anything about smaller body guitars. I got a Dreadnought because that's what you bought at that particular point in history when you were buying a beginning guitar. Since then, I have done all kinds of damage to it. Worst of all, a few years ago, I had a bag fall off my shoulder and crash into the rosette, and just kind of, I've been meaning to get this fixed ever since, but I never seem to get around to it because you can still play it. At a certain point in the 90s, when I had, late 90s, I guess, when I had finally gotten my Martin, I wanted a second guitar to play live. And so I had gotten a Fishman blender system, one of the first Fishman blender systems they made, put into the Martin a year or two before. So I had that put into this guitar as well. And I used it maybe for a year or two. And mostly I used it to play slide. So here's the thing. When I went off to college, I had 3 guitars at that point. I had the Les Paul copy that I had bought when I was 13. I had this guitar, and then after this, I had gone back to the Music Emporium and bought a Yamaha classical guitar because I thought I was going to learn to play classical guitar. It turns out I was not. I was a terrible classical guitar student, and I made no headway. But while I was in my freshman year of college, going and taking classical guitar lessons in the music building, when I would get done for the evening with my lesson, I would come downstairs, and there was a senior there named Stedman who was playing slide guitar on this funky Guild Jumbo. And so I would hang around with him, and he taught me to play slide. And I found out in the process, this is a killer guitar for playing slide. It's got this great bottom end. You know, it doesn't have the cheese grater action. It's got good action. I mean, I had it set up at one point, probably when I had the pickup put in. But it's stiffer, you know, than a small body guitar because it's got the longer scale length, right? So it's really not that hard to get clean sounds, to get a good clean slide sound. You're not going to get a whole lot of that. So I would sit around with Stedman and we would trade Twain Allman licks, and that's kind of how I learned to play slide, which was on this guitar. But this was the only acoustic guitar I had for several years, and so I learned to play everything on it. Finger picking and flat picking and slide, and what little I knew how to do as far as playing, you know, jazz or swing chords or anything like that. I did it all on this instrument. And I usually keep it strung still with 12s. I probably has a really ancient set of John Pierce Foster Bronze 12s on right now. And this isn't really what I came to talk about, but this is a rock slide, a recent acquisition. A friend of mine and a student of my online class, Jim Taylor, brought it with him when he came down to visit Austin and handed it off to me. And I gotta say, I like it a lot. And this part doesn't matter so much to me with the sort of cutaway here and the little I don't know if this is a bevel or what, flattened part here. I guess you're supposed to wear it with the cutaway part close to your finger, and then this is where you grip it, but it's actually more comfortable. I like to have a little less of my finger sticking out, and then I can flex it and kind of hold on to it. But I used to use the moonshine slides for a long time, and the mud slides, and I still really like them. This is just what I had closest to me when I sat down to pick up this guitar. So that's what it is. So that's my first acoustic guitar, Yamaha FG 365. I know there are people, 365S. I know there are people who really care about these older Yamaha guitars. As usual, it's just the one that I have. I didn't hunt it down for any particular reason, and I didn't hold on to it for much except expediency, and I just have a tendency not to give away or get rid of old guitars. They just kind of hang around and get played. So that's the story. Guitar number one. If you like, I can talk about the rest of them at some point as well. And of course, most of the time here on the channel, I'm not talking about guitars, but more how to play them. So if you'd like to learn more about how to play fingerstyle blues guitar, check out my membership, the Fingerstyle 5, at the link below. You can learn how to play traditional blues tunes, how to arrange them, how to improvise on them. Right now, we're working on St. James Infirmary, alternating thumb blues in A minor, also a tune of mine called Zuzu Bingo, and there are even some special beginner lessons for getting your alternating thumb picking together on the classic song Freight Train. So check all that out at the link below, and I'll see you next time.